Great rising and good morning. This is Dania, and this is technically part three. I was commenting on a video on TikTok and I realized I really just needed to give this the time it deserved. And it was regarding, I didn't finish our whole video, but it was a vent regarding identifying a spiritual elder and not getting the help that they desired when engaging in the content creators that they felt like may have been elders. And so my intention in this video is to kind of talk about how my elder came about, some things I would suggest in doing some work leading up to eldership, leading up to getting that elder, and why I feel like my journey happened the way it did. I've told this before, but I feel like maybe getting this in this way would be better. So let's start with where I left off, which was my elders. So both of my elders were divine timing. They genuinely were divine timing. At the time when I identified my first elder, and I would share their name, but I don't think they're doing that work anymore. They're more, I can tell from their content, they're not necessarily doing that teaching work anymore. But she was a friend. We used to work together, and I had been, quietly watching their journey. And I will say that maybe my journey is a little bit different from others because I wasn't raised as a Christian, but I also wasn't raised in the traditional African spiritual sect. I was just not Christian, and I grew up in the South in the Bible Belt. So um, I was already kind of on the fringe, and my interests were already fringe as a kid. So being open and receptive to the newness of a conscious spiritual awakening. And a couple of things, like, I don't know, and I want you to change your narrative, because words have power, and you do know what you're doing. You just aren't yet consciously aware. It hasn't been illuminated for you to know the things that you inherently know, like the things that your ancestors practiced and did. Those things, that knowledge carries through your RNA. That information is still available. You just have not yet learned how to tap into it completely. So just say, I'm not yet consciously aware, because we are always on a spiritual journey. Thus, we always have spiritual awakenings. But then there's that first conscious one where we are fully aware we are having a spiritual awakening. It doesn't make it the first one. It is the first one that our consciousness is able to acknowledge, this is what's happening in my life right now. And I only know this from looking at old Facebook memories. Like, I was going through a spiritual awakening. I didn't know it then, but I can now look at the messages and things I was posting. I was going through a spiritual awakening and I didn't have any idea. So what I did was allowed myself the space to be a sponge with discernment. I am an Aquarius. So Aquarius is both, the innovator, but there is a logic into it, because they're also the ruled, it's and also Saturn ruled sign. So for me, it wasn't enough for someone to say, oh, this is how you do a thing. That wasn't enough. I'm inherently a scientist. So I had to try the thing. And I also watched enough scary movies to know you need to do protection. like I always said, just let me, whatever comes to me, let me do this safely. I want to do this safely. I was just always like that. And that was natural for me. It may not be natural for someone. So someone may need to be told, when you do whatever you're doing, be safe. It's just like when you're driving a car. You can drive a car, go out right now and drive the car fine. But you want to do it safely. You want to know what you're doing to navigate the car between everyone else. You want to put a seatbelt on in case something does happen, you are protected. These are things that are inherently common, but it may not be spiritually common sense. I hope that makes sense. So that's what I was doing first, is really just learning. Then I realized I needed to learn me. And I don't know why that came to me really naturally. Spell work and things like that, that was coming, but inherently it was like, well, what kind of witch do I want to be? I mean, as a kid, I always knew I wanted to be a witch. I just wanted to be the all-powerful witch. When American Horror Story, the witches season, I just knew I was the next supreme. Even if I had not tapped into that part at that moment when I saw that I'm the next supreme, that's just always been there, even if it wasn't always in the front of my mind there. So initially, what I wanted to do was, before I start doing this work, what resonates with me and how do I know? So I really, really like started learning my birth chart and really, really started learning numerology. And I'm not telling you to learn that by yourself, because it may not come to you naturally. But that is also where I would start if I was learning with someone, is if you can get a birth chart reading, get a birth chart reading. If you can't get a full blown reading, see if there's someone that will do like just your big four, um, or do a numerology reading or whatever, so that you can start digging into you, who you are. I will do a lot of self-love work, a lot of work. Calling in your personal sovereignty. Um, I would do a lot of work grounding. Um, and I'm purposely not saying, work on your chakras, because I feel like I agree with the indigenous people who actually started teaching the chakras, that it has been really westernized. And so I'm always mindful of that, but I do agree with the notion that you want to start with your roots, start with your base, start with your foundation, making sure you feel safe, secure, that you have trust in the divine plan, that you have trust in your ability to make decisions. That one is really important. You have to trust your ability to make decisions, because if you don't, anyone can tell you anything and you will take it, because you don't trust your own ability to make the decisions that are right and just for you. So that's work I would start doing first. Um, Dreams, simply writing them down, not divining them, simply writing them down, because you've been getting messages in your dreams your entire life. You just may not be consciously aware of it, but you've always had that one dream you woke up and it's like, what was that? So if you're not keeping a dream journal, keeping a dream journal, um, because I have always been prolific dreamer. Yeah, I've been prophetic too. Sometimes I run from the words, and I'm learning not to run. I've been a prophetic dreamer at some points as well, not simply for myself, but for other people. And the but the thing was, in my youth, I never wrote them down, but I always remembered them. So if you are not remembering your dreams and you need help with that, I can help give you some tips on that. I'm writing a dream practice course, so I can help with that. Um, and I think that's the thing you were most looking for, someone to tell you, I can help you with that. So try not to channel how you felt. I can help you. If I'm the one that your spirit feels like is for you, I can help you. Um, uh, so those are the things that I would start with. I would start there. As you move, the tools and things that will resonate with you, you will start to begin to inherently know them, because you will be knowing yourself better. Um, so then there is well, how do I find the elder? And I was lucky. I knew somebody who had already been doing some of this work. And chances are you might know somebody. And if you do you trust them enough to allow them to help you, guide you spiritually? And if you don't, okay, cool. That means your elder may be somebody you don't know. And that too is okay. So I think you said you have an ancestor altar. Ask them. They know your higher self, your favorite self, whichever terminology, knows the elders, because you may end up working with more than one depending on what you're learning. No. Um, I can give you some content creators that really, 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 the Queen Poe really like was very much part of my collection of Black spiritualists that I really, really resonated with. Um, if you feel, I think you mentioned Orisha, if you're feeling a call to Orisha, understand that there are a multitude of Orisha traditions, and not everyone is for everybody. I've done this in a podcast. Certain people require medicine from a certain tradition. That's why everyone doesn't initiate in all of them or the same one. Some people will initiate in all of the traditions. I know a couple of people that I want to say her name is Adunla, Adunla, the Oracle. Um, she was also one, and she doesn't strictly speak on Orisha tradition, but I know that she is initiated in more than one. Even my Iyalode, she's my spiritual godmother. She is initiated into multiple traditions. So you just simply have to know, am I going to be in multiple traditions? Is this going to be one? There's a lot of things that come along with that, but I do not feel like that's the first place to go. The first place to go is you. I don't even feel like ancestor veneration is the first place to go. It can be a parallel, but the first place is always going to be you. So that's where I would start there, because then you will be so aligned to your own personal vibration. You will know whose vibration is similar to yours, and that they can, that okay, this is a person I should be able to work with. I can work with this person, they can help me, yada yada yada. You'll be able to discern that with clarity and have trust in your intuition to know that that is the case. So um so that's my spiel. The elder will come to you. My Iyalode, like, it wasn't like I sought her out. There was this really harmonious alignment. My Iyalode had a podcast and a radio show, and my cousin is who actually knew her, and had already been, like, watching her content, and thus introduced me to her content. So there was this already just like this thing, and I was watching their content, and that's the thing, watching several pieces of her content and listen to her talk, how she taught, and her telling her story is what drew me to her energetic, like, oh my God, I love her. Like, she was soft but firm, and she was knowledgeable, and I just appreciated the way that she's taught. Then my cousin gifted me an Ifa reading for my solar return in 2021. And that's how we officially met. So again, this was divinely aligned. I didn't have to do anything major. I had already put it out in the universe. I'd already said the prayers. I'm open to an elder. And this is what teaching style resonates with me, et cetera, et cetera. And I will tell you that my reading was probably, I don't let a lot of people read for me. Like, I just don't, because I'm not one of those readers that says, I'm not one of those people that says I can't read for myself. I can read for myself, which is why I don't let a lot of people read for me. I'm funny about which pick of cards I watch. I'm just particular. But man, that was such a beautiful reading. And it wasn't this whole, like, you have to initiate. And that's the thing. A lot of times, if we are not discerning, if we're not setting the appropriate intention in the beginning, those people will come to us. Like, I know a lot of people talk about, the babalawos and things like that in their inbox and things like that. And in the very, very beginning, I did have that happen. But it's not the way, it doesn't happen in the same way anymore. Occasionally I'll get one. I get a couple here and there, and I can tell that they're not, because they'll ask me a question and it clearly says in my bio, my name is Iyanifa, Dania Faomi Shango. Hey, do you know about Ifa? See, that tells me immediately that you're phony, because if you were, you would see in my bio that not only am I aware, but I'm crowned. You'd already see that, and thus not ask me these ridiculous questions. So that's how those are, like, you have to have discernment. And anytime, but I never felt like I was going to fall for it. You're at my answer. No, they didn't. No, they did not. So the ability to have that discernment, a true psychic medium, unless this is a friend of yours that knows you personally, they're not going to slide in your inbox, hey, you should book me for a reading. We're like, it'd be one thing if you're on our mailing list and we got a website, you join our mailing list and we say, hey, we've got some readings available if anybody wants to book. That's not the same thing as somebody sliding in your inbox saying they have a message from your ancestors and you need to book a reading to get it. No, because understand, and you can ask anyone that is a friend of mine, if I dreamt about you, if I received message downloads specifically about you, I'm just going to tell you, are you open to receive this message? Cool, here it is. I'm not charging or nothing because otherwise I wouldn't have received it in the way that I got it. So understand, a true psychic medium is not coming to you, trying to get you to book them in the way in your inbox, unless you are on their mailing list. That's just not something that's going to happen. Your elders won't, your elders don't choose their mentees. Mentees choose their mentors. That's how that works. That's how it works in practical. Your spiritual life and practical life are not separate. So if you're at a job and your job has people mentoring, you realize those people aren't hunting down their mentees. Their mentees are coming to them. That is how that will work for you. That my elder didn't like, hey, I should mentor. That's not what happened. This was an organic conversation that happened with divination. And not only it confirmed for me. And see, as you're doing this work, what happens in divination, especially if you get one from me, my mission is to confirm, illuminate the messages that you have already been receiving and may not have understood because you have not worked that muscle. You haven't worked your intuitive muscle. You haven't worked your mediumship muscle. So that muscle has lethargy. It's not that the muscle ain't there. You ain't did no work with it. It's like when you end up in a situation where you can't walk. You may not necessarily be unable to walk, you just have not been able to walk for a time. And then you have to do physical therapy in order to allow yourself to walk. Oh, that was a gem. Wait. That was good. That felt nice. So you have to work the muscle, get the muscle built back up, build its strength back up in order for you to effectively use the muscle. So until then, there may be somebody that needs to come through. And even when the muscle is super strong, partnership and community is a beautiful thing. Partnership and my fellow EAs and owls that initiated with me, we are constantly supporting each other, and we're not even in a formal elay. We are energetically in elay, even without the formalness of it. And I think that is an absolutely beautiful thing. So, and I'm sorry, an elay is a spiritual house or family. So understand, like, coming to my ELO day was not something where it's like she didn't seek me out, and I energetically sought her out. And so after my divination, it was like I knew. I knew. But even then, she told me not to make a decision. And once again, that is the sign of a good elder. Don't choose me now. You need to know that your intuition, your spirit feels like this person. You need to feel like this person is a match for you. You need to feel like they're a match for you. And you'll know that there won't be any confusion like, oh my God, I have you, it's you. You'll know. You'll absolutely know. There will be no confusion. You will know. Um, and then at that point, and understand this does not have to be, okay, so hopefully you can still hear me because Zoom is doing the weird things, or I got too much energy happening. Either way, I'm hoping you can still hear me, but I'm going to go ahead and upload this on my podcast just in case. All right. So there I am. So with the elder, you want to understand that every mentor is not meant for every purpose. Like my original mentor did not have anything to do with Orisha practice or anything. So they were absolutely the right mentor though for me to get me in a foundation of simply having a spiritual practice in the general sense and trusting my intuition. and trusting in where I was being led spiritually. That is what they supported me with. When I was ready to go deeper into Orisha practice, and this is something that evolved and came over time. And for those interested in Orisha practice who may also be understand that for me, the order in which things happened was self-love work, which includes shadow work and things like that. Then I started to parallel that with my ancestral veneration practice and venerating my Ori, my head, my consciousness, my higher self that is still with the source. And I did it in English. And I have a video that I've been wanting to do about language and words and some of that conversation, but understand I was venerating my Ori in English. And the first thing that my Ialode said in my divination energetically is that I was already living Ifa. So if someone ever says to you, you can't possibly be connecting to the all, then the all speaks all languages, like understand there's already, anyone that limits the creator's ability to recognize you is not your elder. Because the source of all is unlimited, limitless, boundless. It's not bound by human ideals or emotions unless you identify the God within a person who's living a human experience. But the source of all will hear you, period. Okay, so now that I've kind of talked about some foundational work to do, how we will know your elder, you know, and paying attention to the content that you are intaking and knowing what resonates with you and what does not. I'm going to go ahead and unshamelessly plug myself. So, hi, I am Ianifa Dania Fa'omi Shango. You can call me Ia Dania for short. If you're not an Orisha practitioner, Dania is just fine. And my conscious spiritual awakening took place in 2020, coinciding with my beautiful lock journey. I am a psychic medium, an oracle, intuitive, empath. Um, a lot of people don't identify with the word witch, but I wanted to be a witch as a kid, and thus I am completely okay with being a wise woman, but I am also a priestess. I am a numerologist. I am a studying astrologer, so I know enough astrology to be dangerous. That's why I only offer the big four: basic interpretation for your birth chart. But the big four is actually the medicine that I needed in the beginning of my journey to get me started. I am a priestess of Iemoja and Shango. I do, for those who like want to know, yes, I have both hands of Ifa, but I am not currently offering Ifa divination right now. The moment I decide if that's going to be something I do publicly, y'all will know. But right now, that's not what I do. I do still do tarot card and oracle card readings. I am very proficient in channeling messages. Ancestors tend to like me. And I am a natural teacher. My teaching style is firm but nurturing. Probably my Cancer rising and Yemoja showing up. I teach in a practically spiritual manner, and that is because I know part of my mission in this life is to show that they're not separate. Your practical, your life and your spiritual life, your material, physical life and your spiritual life are not separate. They are coinciding and happening together. And this is why you have to listen to your intuition in the small material practical things, so that when there's something really large and you get that intuitive nudge, you are able to trust it because you've been building that muscle over time. Um, I'm also a mystic and I am religious. And when I say that I am religious, people sometimes like, oh, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. If you are spiritual, you're religious. And if you're religious, you should be spiritual. But if you are spiritual, you're absolutely religious. You just may not be aligned to an organized religion. Organized religions and religion itself are not one and the same. You have the organized religions, but religion simply means you believe in a power bigger than yourself. And you have a set of practices that align with that belief. Everyone spiritual is religious. You believe in a power, whether that power is yourself, bigger than yourself, but you also have a set of practices, whether it is every new and full moon, you put your crystals out, every, Samhain, you do this thing. If you have a set of practices that you do and they're ritualized, that is what makes you religious. The spiritual is that you have a belief and an understanding in the spirit, the intangible, the non corporeal. The practices and things that you do, the rituals of things, is what makes it a religion. So if you ask me, my religion is self love. I have a religion based in self love, and it's very mystical in nature, in that I am constantly looking for the multitude of ways for me to connect to source. I do not have any belief that there is any one practice or tradition that is the ultimate right one. It is only what is right for you in this journey, in this lifetime, in this dimension, at this time, as you are an individualized body that the Most High is dwelling in. There you go. So that is who I am. Like I said, I'm not taking one-on-ones right now, but I am going to be working on what a group spiritual journey will look like. And this will not be, even though I am initiated, I am not inherently leading you to initiation other than initiating in your own practice. Then if you decide you want to come to anything else. So I'm not going to teach you how to invoke in Orisha. I'm not going to teach you how to connect to an enter, a Neteru, or for some of y'all, an Egyptian god. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do any of those things. In the journey with me, you will start with self-love. That is a requirement when you work with me. You will start with self-love. That's why if you ever watch me do a reading, I always give y'all self-care. Always. You will start with self-love. You will go into shadow work. You will learn what your mission, vision, and values are at that time and how to ground the practice of reevaluating them over time. You will learn what your higher self is and is not and how to connect with it, how to build trust in your intuition. And then we will talk about ancestor veneration. That is the only other thing we will discuss. I am working on some things in terms of like spiritual tools and things like that. And if you have questions, especially since will have a group, then yes, we can absolutely dig into those things. But the foundation of the journey is all about you, getting in touch with you, and developing your own individualized practice. Because that way, when you decide to do something more formalized with any tradition, whether it is an African tradition, any other indigenous traditions, you will be so grounded in you, you will know how to incorporate that in what you already do. And that is my goal. And ultimately, what my hope is that by being so in touch with you, you will be comfortable in being you. And the authenticity of you will come through so strongly that when you're doing stuff that's completely aligned to who you are, you will have this moment where you hear this whisper, and it'll be source, and you'll know. It'll be the Most High saying, I'm so proud of you. And if I could give that to every one of my students, that's exactly what I would give. So I hope this was helpful to you. I'm sorry I couldn't make this short. I couldn't do this short. I felt like you needed all of this, and anybody else that's so I hope this. If you have questions, I do offer a free 15-minute consultation. You can inbox me on Instagram, or if I see you follow me, I'll follow you back, and you can message me on TikTok. But I do offer free 15-minute consultations. They are not divination, but you have 15 minutes to ask me. Maybe those are ideal for you to ask questions about which services I offer that may be beneficial for you, or something to that effect. That's what my free 15 minutes is for. If you think you need longer, you're like you want to pick your brain, then we could do an hour-long pick your brain session, and I'll tell you can inbox me and I'll tell you that. Okay. But thank you so much. Let me know how this resonates, and I hope that you and anyone else watching has a great day.